Hello everyone, and this is my review for WWE Monday Night Raw on June the 20th, 2016, and well, as you know, this Raw was the fallout from the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, and of course, the way you start off the show is with Dean Ambrose, basically talking about his night and everything like that. I love the aspect that he threw out the Cleveland Cavaliers in there during his promo, and then when they started booing, he's like, I didn't like him anyway. And of course, they start cheering again. But of course, talking about his title win and everything in that sense. Actually, really good promo from Dean Ambrose in this case. I thought it basically showed off his joy of winning the title and the work that he put into getting to that the title spot. And interesting enough, you would have figured the fact that technically he still is working as a heel in the terms of his promos and everything. You thought Seth Rollins would probably interfere first, or interject himself first here, but it ended up being Roman Reigns, and of course they start cutting a promo, and the crowd's getting into Roman, digging right into Roman Reigns at that time, and I do like the interaction he actually had with the crowd. Roman was kind of healing it up tonight. Not gonna lie, he was really. It felt like he was healing it up a little bit in the terms of his promo work. But he is I don't care what you guys say. This is my best friend. I want to congratulate him and everything in that sense. Like I said, he was telling the crowd to basically shut it. This is not something a babyface does in there. So Roman beginning to work a different variation of his promo side of everything, and we'll see where they go anywhere with that. That was just a one night thing, but of course afterwards, they're talking. It's as soon as he's about to talk about trying to get a title match, of course Seth Rollins comes out. Both of them have a legit gripe in the terms of the story of having a number one contendership. They were both champion and both deserve a rematch in some way, shape, or form. So of course Seth and Roman and Dean are all arguing around and of course talking and trying to both Roman and Seth are trying to plead their case, and of course Shane McMahon comes out. Shane announces that Stephanie's not going to be there that night, so he gets to make the matches, he gets to run the show, and sets up the number one contendership match for later in the night with Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. I'm not going to talk about that yet. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. We'll go into the rest of the show here. First match that they had, and they give a quick backstage bit, and of course, for Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. The first match was Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens, and just the way that this feud continually goes, they say in a sense, this feud will never end. They're destined to do this forever in some way, shape, or form. They'll be away from each other for a little while, but then they'll find their way back together, and that's what's going on here. In this sense of things, that not that they've gotten away from each other yet, but I see this not this particular match, but I see them having one more pay-per-view match that kind of gets them away from each other for a while, and then you'll see them gradually grow back to each other, because they were trying to build this as they want to settle the score tonight. They want to get the in this feud so they can go on and everything in that sense. And they put on a really good match tonight, I thought. The two of them have always put on good matches, whether it be on TV or on pay-per-view. The aspect of this match, it came off as a really good match. Sami Zayn gets the semi-fluky victory with a roll-up, and of course, as he's celebrating, Kevin Owens runs up and just attacks him, and these two brawl throughout, up the rampway. They have to pull them apart and everything, and then when they come back from commercial break, they're still brawling. This was actually pretty good stuff. And it's the note that I put is so it seems like these guys are at it again, and they will always be at it in some way, shape, or form. This feud will never end in any way. They'll be away from each other for months and months and months, maybe a year at one point in time, and then they'll come right back together, and you know what this feud's going to mean in every way. So up next, you had John Laurinaitis. Oh, John, talking like you've been smoking cigarettes for God knows how many years in your life, coming out there to talk about people power and how he was general manager, basically hyping up the brand extension and everything like that. And of course, this does bring out Shane again to basically get Laurinaitis out of there. I actually liked how Laurinaitis came off. He came off a little bit goofy here, and he came off like he was like having a little bit of fun with everything, because he was like running off and everything in that sense towards the end, and even going on the aspect is like he wants to run SmackDown. Shane's like, I'll be running SmackDown. Okay, then he runs over to the Raw podium. And it's like, okay, you can run SmackDown, and I'll run Raw. It's like, no, not gonna happen. Not a bad segment here, and a good way of getting over the fact that the brand extension is going. I'm slowly warming up to these segments. In some way, they kind of get a little bit more meaning now with the aspect that they have the draft on the first live SmackDown. So, it's starting to garner a little bit more for me in that sense of everything. Up next, you had Enzo and Big Cass going up against the Von Villains. First of all, when the bit that Shane McMahon and Enzo Amore did, where they both kind of did their dance or run on the stage beforehand, was actually kind of a pretty good spot. I did not mind that spot at all. And of course, Enzo and Cass cutting a relatively good promo, basically sticking to what was just happening with Laurinaitis and everything like that. Not a bad promo from Enzo and Cass there before they went up against the Von Villains. The match itself, your typical fare from Enzo and Big Cass and the Von Villains here. Not a bad match, but kind of typical fare. We've seen this before. That's probably the only real problem with it, is that we've seen it before, and they didn't really change up too much of anything here. But then again, it wasn't bad either by any stretch of the imagination. So you can't give them like that negative of a review for it, because it wasn't horrible by any stretch. So it was kind of a meh match in the terms of everything. Enzo, like I said, Enzo and Cass putting on a good promo beforehand, which is what most people probably expect from them to begin with now. So up next was AJ Styles. AJ Styles coming out, talking about the match, and he's trying to give off like this heelish, like he's almost being sincere about the aspect. He wants an apology, but being completely in a heelish, unsincere side. Like he calls out Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows to apologize for ruining the match because he had signed his name on the line. On the line there, saying that they wouldn't be involved, yet they got involved during the ref bumping. You can even play it off on an aspect that, both AJ and Cena were down, and then they ran out and did that when the ref was down, so AJ might not have known. So of course Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows come out and do this half-witted apology and everything like that, everything in that sense, and even apologizing to John, who comes out, and they cut again. The promos with AJ and Cena they've been great. They've actually been fun to listen to. I like the aspect that you almost have the heel here, not taking Cena seriously in any way, while Cena used to be the one that would be the Joker, yet he's here trying to take this match and this feud as serious as possible with everything he does. And you have AJ kind of almost playing the jokes in this sense. Like they work well together, and I thought it came off really good. It sets off a very quick match with Carl Anderson and John Cena. Like Anderson doesn't get any offense in whatsoever. It was kind of weird to see that sense of everything. It felt like they kind of squash that portion a bit down, but then as Cena was about to get the win, they get their heat back by beating him by AJ and Luke Gallows coming out and starting the beatdown, which was a part of the promo beforehand. It's like he knows what's going to happen. It's going to become a 3-on-1 whenever he fights one of those guys. So like they weren't out there initially, and then they dashed down after the AA. And just making it go on an aspect is like AJ gave his word that it would be 1-on-1, and of course taking his word away again in that sense of everything. So again, not a bad segment. I don't like the aspect of a squash match, but it is what it is inside of there. So we'll see where they go with everything. Obviously, they're going to be doing more with Cena and AJ. It's an aspect of where is the club going to be? Are they just going to be here with AJ? Or are they going to start working something else? Because something else to happen later in the show kind of indicates that they might not be in that tag title picture here in the very near future. They have Becky Lynch backstage. The next segment was Becky Lynch backstage talking about how Natty turned on her and everything like that. She even says that she feels like she's cursed because Paige turned on her, Charlotte turned on her, now Natalya turned on her in there, in that sense of everything. So it was an aspect of her even afterwards saying it didn't feel like she came off weak, because it was an aspect of there's no more second chances for anyone. If someone does something, screw it, we're done, and now she's gonna go after that person to go along with it. And then she gets attacked by Natalya, who basically says the exact same thing, but she's playing it in the heel side, because of course she had turned on Becky the night before and beat her down then, and then beats her down here again, saying that Natalya is going to be looking after number one, and I hope that's a good enough answer for you in that sense of the promo. Not a bad segment here. I don't think too many people were going to care too much about the feud, though they really do like Becky Lynch, so I think a lot of people might end out liking this feud down the road. And we'll see where they go with everything here. It might not be a bad one to begin with. And hey, guess what? That means Becky Lynch is going to have a feud of some kind here on the main program. So good to see that. Good to see that. Up next was Zack Ryder going up against Baron Corbin. This match was Zack Ryder got a little bit of offense in there, but in the end, this one was there to make Baron Corbin look strong in that sense. Like, we know where Zack Ryder has been. He's, of course, had the U.S. title. He's had the Intercontinental title in that sense of everything. But he's there making guys look strong again. And that's what this match was there for, was making Baron Corbin look strong. You had a Wyatt family promo, and they said that the Wyatt family was going to return tonight. And I was thinking in my head initially, and then I reminded myself a little bit later. It was interesting that Luke Harper wasn't in those promos in any way, shape, or form. And then I reminded myself that Luke Harper was still out with a knee injury. He got injured around WrestleMania time. So there was no way that he was going to be back yet in any way. So it'll be interesting if they, since they did these promos with only Braun Strowman and only Eric Rowan, no Luke Harper around, it'll be interesting to see if they bring him back and keep him as part of the Wyatt family, or do they try to separate him again. I think they'll bring him back with the Wyatt family in there. And I'll get to that here very soon as well, because up next was they were advertising throughout the whole night Paige versus Charlotte for the women's title, because Paige beat her the week before. You have a relatively good promo from both sides backstage between Paige and Charlotte before they actually have the match. The match itself was not a bad match this week. It was a lot better than the week before. They even gave it a little bit more emphasis, because last week it was kind of like that old style of the women's matches where it was like only a couple minutes and you guys are done. This time, a little bit more emphasis on everything. They gave them more time inside the ring. I even like the aspect, even though the ending of the match was coming up, because Paige was supposed to get distracted by Dana Brooke outside because she puts the foot on the rope, but the referee sees it, so he actually, because this is one thing that they tell the refs to do, is to call it more like a shoot. So he throws her out right at the end of the match. There was no reason to actually throw her out. It wasn't part of the storyline or anything, but they actually did something like that. Nice little attention to detail, because you caught someone cheating. You throw them out of the ring. Okay, that's fine with me. You're throwing a little bit of touch of realism to it. You're not just ignoring something just for the sake of storyline purposes inside of there. But like I said, the match itself was a relatively good match. And at the end of the match, after Charlotte wins with natural selection, she is tossing Paige out of the ring, and Sasha Banks' music hits. And, well, you know what that means. They're beginning the feud with Sasha and Charlotte here. She comes down the ring. Dana Brooke tries to cut her off the pass, just gets waylaid, and eventually it does lead to Charlotte running away. You have Sasha and Paige sitting there in the ring. Maybe they have a tag of some kind beforehand. I don't know what they're going to do with that, if they're going to do anything with that at all. But we'll see where they go. We'll see where they go with everything. I believe this is the beginnings of the Sasha Banks Charlotte feud that most people have been assuming was coming here for quite some time now. And up next was the Wyatt family return. Wyatt family comes out. Obviously, the Wyatt family pretty over in this case, especially with Bray. Bray starts talking on the microphone, and he doesn't get too far into his promo when he gets interrupted by the New Day. And what can you say? It feels like, okay, you have the New Day coming out there. They are the tag champs, and you have the Wyatts. So you're assuming that maybe they're going with some kind of, like, it felt like for a while that they were going with Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows going up against the New Day while AJ does his thing as well. And they would be in that area with Cena to go along with it. But now you have New Day interrupting the Wyatt family. And you have this whole aspect of Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family. They give off this negative vibe in some way. Or, you have this guy who preaches about destroying things. And you have the New Day with like this era of power of positivity and everything. And you even get this little snippet. I'm wondering where they're going to go with this. I really do wonder where they're going to go with this down the road, because before they did their typical bit where they do the whole WWE Tag Team Champions in the slow and they like show off the belts and everything, you have Xavier Woods kind of just staring down and walking towards the ring kind of in a trance, just like he was like no words, no nothing, just kind of in a trance of some kind. I'm wondering where they're going to go with that here in the very near future, and we'll see where they do go with that down the road here. But it looks like we're going to have the Wyatts and the New Day with the tag titles here very, very soon in some way, shape, or form. So we'll see where they go with everything there. Up next was Titus O'Neil and Rusev. They built it as a match. Ends up not really being a match. I liked the promo from Titus O'Neil beforehand, getting very, very intense on the aspect of what happened after the match. Like he taunted his kids at ringside, and Rusev taunted his kids at ringside, so he wanted another match with Rusev. I liked what they did there, and that purpose. Again, Titus comes off a little bit stronger in that sense of everything. He didn't look too bad the night before, and this feud gives it a little bit more intensity to it because instead of having the match, the two of them just kind of brawl it out and start and basically saying, it's like, we're going to continue this feud in some way, shape, or form. I like how Rusev doesn't initially let him into the ring, and then when Titus O'Neil gets into the ring, he just starts beating down Rusev. They trade back and forth for a little bit before Rusev goes away in that sense. So we'll be seeing them. And we'll be seeing more of them in a sense. And like this one came off a lot better. And if you're saying it's like I think Raw was, if I was thinking Raw was actually good, it actually was kind of good tonight. And we haven't even got to the main event, where I do have a gripe. So I'm going to put down my armrest here. I have a little bit of a gripe with it, but it wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns. The match was. It wasn't as good as last night's match. We'll leave it at that. It wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. The commentary from Dean Ambrose I thought was relatively good. I liked how he was kind of, doing his own thing out there. It was almost like he was ignoring the announcers in some way. Like Cole would ask him a question, and he was still in the middle of talking about something. He wouldn't even acknowledge Cole or any of the announcers at that time. I kind of like that. The match ends with double countout. So, of course, this leads it to be, and of course, you can buy this with how Dean Ambrose's character is. It leads Shane to come back out, and it seems like he's going to either restart the match or something like that. But you have Dean Ambrose already in the middle of the ring. Just like, and you have Shane's like, what are you doing there? I was going to restart the match. And then he says, it's like, I'll take both of them on. And you can buy it. You can buy that with his character. The only gripe I really have with it is that they're doing the Shield triple threat now. Why are they doing it now? It feels like they're blowing their load with this storyline way too quickly. Like, I want this to build to SummerSlam in some way, shape, or form. Like, maybe you're going to get something there, but I don't know. Or one of those guys is going to be working with Brock or something. I don't know what's going on, but I feel like the Shield triple threat, that should be a SummerSlam match right there. Like, they could have done a one-on-one here and the other one interferes. Like, they could have had it been Roman Reigns versus Dean Ambrose, and like Seth Rollins interferes, which causes the triple threat to eventually happen. But it feels like they're going for the Shield triple threat way too early, and that's just my personal feelings on this. Like this Shield triple threat's been building, at least in the fans' minds, and the factor that Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose, in some way, shape, or form, have been interacting with each other ever since the Shield breakup. In some way, not in every way, but in some way, shape, or form. Like, this triple threat's been building up. Why don't you put this on one of the bigger shows, or at least the first variation of it on one of the bigger shows? Instead, we're getting it now here in July. I mean, that's great. I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to finally see it, but it feels like this should be bigger. It should be on a bigger stage than Battleground. It should be on a different stage. It should be like on the SummerSlam stage, or a Survivor Series stage, or the WrestleMania stage. Like, I figured SummerSlam, since it's the closer one, and they've gotten there, but it just feels like they decided to go way too early going to this match. And it kind of bothers me a little bit in that sense. It's like, what are these guys going to be doing for SummerSlam that's considered the second biggest show of the year? In that sense of everything. Like, where are they going to go with this? Are they going to do a second triple threat that has some kind of extra stip in it? Or what's going to happen with that? Like I said, I'm glad to see the triple threat finally happen. But did they do it too soon? That's the question. That's really the question. And I guess we'll figure that out as time goes on and how they build this match down the road here, going into Battleground. So we'll see how they do everything. So, overall, like I said, I have my subtle gripes about Raw and everything like that, and I kind of threw them in there to go along with it. But for the most part, this show is actually fairly entertaining. Though, I've been known to be easily entertained before, but I've also been very critical of Raw in the past in some way, shape, or form. So, this Raw actually came off quite entertaining this week. I liked what they did with pretty much everything. There was very little tonight that didn't have some kind of substance to it. And there was a couple in there. Like I said, the Enzo and Cass and the Von Villains really didn't have any kind of substance to it. The Baron Corbin, Zack Ryder match, that didn't really have any substance to it. But, like, for the most part throughout the night, either a storyline started or there was some kind of substance thrown into the storylines, which is a good thing. This is a good thing. Coming right off of Raw, they could have taken it easy tonight, and it's like, we'll start the storylines next week. We have 5 weeks and everything like that. No, they're going right into it, going into the next pay-per-view. So we'll see where everything goes. This Raw was fairly entertaining, and we'll see if they can continue that. And that is my review for Monday Night Raw this week. I thank you guys for watching, and have a great rest of your day.